Welcome to another episode of Vital Doc Talk. And today we have Dr. Joseph Rosado on the show, and he is full of a lot of tips, guys. So he's been in the industry for a while now, a lot of gold here, and his perspective is unique. You know, a lot of times doctors say referrals are the best way to grow, and undoubtedly, I don't think anyone worth their salt is going to argue with you there. But Dr. Joseph, he has a really unique story, and he hustled his way to the top, and it's pretty practical here. So Dr. Joseph, glad to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your show and get together and do it now in the new normal.
Yeah, in the new COVID society, right? And we can definitely get to that later in the episode of how that's impacted you. I think it's very interesting because, different doctors, it impacts differently, and we'll analyze why. But first, why don't we get into your background and what motivated you to go into this direction? What do you do? And let's go a little bit into your background.
All right. Well, since the age of 16, I've been involved in some way, shape, or form of medicine. I started out as an orderly, then in a assisted living facility, then a transportation orderly at a local hospital, then an EMT, then an EMT paramedic, then a heart cath lab technician, then a chiropractor, then a medical doctor, and then after medical school, I got an MBA in healthcare management. So that's been my trajectory from the age of 16 to 57 now, and in 14 days, 2 weeks, I'll be 58. So
wow,
that's what I've been doing for the past 40 plus years.
I love it. And like he said, from 16 to 58, he has a lot of experience in the medical industry. And so there's definitely a lot of gold here, guys, as he built up his own practice. So you own your own practice, and then you do consulting. Why don't you tell the audience like what you do today and what you own?
Sure. I'm a private practice. I have a private practice that specializes in medical cannabis. I'm in a medically legal state, hence why we can do that. But in conjunction with medical cannabis, I've written and published books as well as refereed articles. My book is entitled Hope and Healing, The Case for Cannabis. And the foreword is written by one of the pioneers in the industry, a Czech Republic scientist. And the book is also available in Spanish because I am bilingual and bicultural. So available in English and Spanish. It was published last year, April 20th, 2019. And as a result of that, I got a lot of invitations to travel all over the world speaking on medical cannabis. Last year, I went to 8 different countries. Started in Costa Rica. From Costa Rica, went to Rome, Italy. Then from Rome, Italy to Tokyo, Japan. Then Tokyo, Japan to Mexico City, Malaysia. Then from Malaysia to Colombia. From Colombia to Puerto Rico. From Puerto Rico to Fiji. So I went to 8 different countries and traveled to 3 different states speaking on medical cannabis and what I published in the book and in my research articles. So because of my journey in medical cannabis, one of the biggest challenges have been doctors that are in medically legal states that want to get involved in the medical cannabis space, but do not have or have not had any training to be able to do this, because in medical schools, they don't teach us how to use medical cannabis. They don't teach us how to treat patients with medical cannabis. And so for this reason, I created a consulting company, International Medical Consultants, which allows and presents itself for physicians, but also patients, that we give them advice. We give them suggestions. I can't manage them or treat them unless I'm licensed in their jurisdiction. But for the most part, it's more, my doctor recommended this, or I'm on this medication. I'm concerned of the possibility of a drug-drug interaction. What do you think? And I just send them what the literature says, and then we go from there. So I do some consulting with patients, but primarily with doctors.
Awesome. I love that. So guys, he runs He does a lot. Obviously, he's got a book. He got a book, a bilingual book. He helps doctors. He helps patients, and specializes in the cannabis industry. Been in the industry for over 30 years. So I think that's phenomenal. So hats off to that. With my coronavirus hair over here. So why don't you tell us in the beginning, the early days, right, when you first became a doctor, what were your tips and tricks to actually getting clients, right?
Well, I learned because remember, before being a medical doctor, I was a chiropractor, and only 10% of the population goes to chiropractors. And that being said, insurance companies were at that time dropping the hammer on the number of visits that people could come see a chiropractor, etc. So I learned the hustle as a student, not as a chiropractor. I did all my training as a student. And one of the things I did was I used the fact that I'm bilingual and bicultural to my advantage. And what I did was I tapped into the Hispanic market. I started going to reaching out to different Spanish churches that were in the general radius of the school clinic. And I reached out to the pastors, the priests, the reverends, and I would tell them, look, I'm a chiropractic student. I'd like to come in and just take 5 minutes of your time to speak on health. And they're like, yeah, sure. Because, most churches are pro health, pro, healthy living, healthy lifestyles. And so I would go in and just, 5 essentials that you need for better health. And, I talked about air, proper breathing techniques, drinking water, proper diet, exercise. And then I would touch just very lightly on chiropractic care and how chiropractic care, how it works and why it works. And, it's not only for pain, but also for just general well-being, general health. And then I would say, if you have a question for me or if you have anything else, I'll be in the back. I'll stay for the service. And at the end of the service, you can come and reach out to me. So I would, go ahead.
I love that model. I think that's a beautiful model, right? So, and there's two main things I've gotten from it so far. So first of all, doctors, I think living, your brand. So obviously Dr. Rosado here, he speaks Spanish. So whatever you have unique to you, right? Whether you go to the gym, whatever, right? Wherever a lot of people get together. And if you resonate with that community, that's the community you should go after or look to target. That's the first thing. And then number two, I think health is very unique. And obviously, in business, I think if you just educate people, that's the best form of, getting great people to work with, clients, etc. But especially in health, if a doctor educates, then people will naturally come to the doctor. I think that works very well. I don't know why, but in the health industry, I think it works. It's one of the best. So it looks like
Dr. Physician means teacher, and so that's what I was doing. So, and I would tell them, at the end of the service, I'll be in the back of I'll be in the back of the church, and when we're done, come and talk to me. I had a bunch of cards with me, and I had an appointment book, and so I was right there, ready to make appointments. And that's another thing, when you go do public speaking, you got to have a close. You got to be able to close them. There's an informational type of a talk where you come in and you inform them. But the other thing is you're informing them, you're giving them something, but at the end, you're like, and if you have any questions or you're interested in my service, come and talk to me and be prepared to schedule them right there and then. Otherwise, out of sight, out of mind. And so I would commit them right there on the spot. And, I would get 2 or 3 patients at a time. Well, that's not enough to keep your doors open in a real business. But as a student, I was raking it because, I was making, but it was the frequency and just the repetition. Because from those 2 or 3, now I have cousins, nieces, nephews, grandmother, grandfather, in-laws, etc., that you build from that.
Exactly. You nailed it, right? It's as long as you got some kind of steady source, right? And then the second thing is obviously you've got to do a great job and have a great service. And whether it's customer interviews or whether it's just you take notes after every session, whatever it is, it's going to improve. And then you're going to start getting more referrals, but you need to have a way to get the drops in the bucket and then, start filling up over time. So I love that. And also another thing that you said that was a piece of gold, I feel like is, and I read one of my friends who has a very successful insurance brokerage, and he says customers love speed. That's one of the best things. Nobody wants to wait, right? Everybody wants everything now. So what you did, which was gold, and nobody's ever said this on this podcast, is booking instantly. The second somebody says, hey, I'm interested, or, let's talk about that, you say, that's great. And you just whip out your calendar and you book them right then and there. And that is, I think, I wouldn't say gold, it's a diamond tip for any business owner, especially doctors, whoever out there says, oh, that's interesting. I'm interested. You say, oh, well, let's set up a consultation or whatever it is. Did you have
Right
like a free
there.
consultation setup? What was the offer?
Yeah, well, because I was a student, our rates, a new patient, an outpatient visit was like $8, and a new patient evaluation was like $30, $40, something like that. I mean, we're talking like in the 80s. But now we offer a free consultation. If you go to my website, there's a place to book a consultation with me, and the first 15 minutes are free because I need to do a discovery, just like I do with a patient. When a patient comes in, I do a review of systems, I do a history and a physical. That's my discovery. That's where I discover what the problem is and whether I can or cannot help them. So same thing for consulting. I don't know if you and I are going to be a right fit. Our personalities may not gel or may not jive. I may be too aggressive for you. I may not be aggressive enough. That's discovered in the first 15 minutes of a free consultation. It's like a first date. You're kind of testing the waters, you're checking each other out. And if you resonate within those first 15 minutes, then there's potential for you to continue on and do business. If not, then no harm, no foul. You've got my contact information, you've got my website. If you come across anybody else that may be interested, send them my way. And so that's another way that you can generate buzz. It's like, look, it didn't work for us, but I'm going to keep your information. If I know someone that does what you do or needs your services, I'm going to refer them to you. Do the same for me. And that's it.
I love that, guys. Really, if I think if you get that 15-minute consultation process down, because what Dr. Joseph's done here is he's got the stages perfectly, right? First, you call a church or, you get in contact with them, ask, hey, I'm a doctor. I'd love to speak about health for 5 minutes, to help the audience. Would you be interested? Most people are going to say yes to that, right? It's free. Then basically you get up, you educate, and then whoever is interested, that's the first stage. The second stage is that whenever they say, hey, I'm interested, et cetera, you say, oh, great, let's book a 15-minute intro call. You do like an intro call, then you take notes on every intro call, you improve that. And then if they really like what you're talking about, you write down your system, your process. And this is what I think separates the good from the really amazing or great. The really amazing or great, they've got their system down, whether it's by memory or writing it down, which obviously speeds it up. They've got this stuff and then they just improve it. And so then after the consultation, obviously then, there you go, that they're a client. And then if you do a great job there, sky's the limit, right?
Exactly. And so from there you get, all the referrals, but like that was with chiropractic. Then I got into medicine, and I mean, medicine was easy because patients come to you, they need a primary care doctor, boom, they're at your door. You could suck. I mean, as long as you fog a mirror and you're in their insurance plan, you're gonna get patients. It's just that simple. But once you are in the system and people come to you and you give them great service, like, you're not going to be in my office longer than 30 minutes, or you're not going to have to wait more than 5 minutes in my waiting room. Those are little things that really impress people. because like you said earlier, nobody wants to wait. I got a patient today that had been with a doctor for years, and I took her away from him because her last visit at his office, she waited 3 hours. She's got 2 kids, is a single mom. She doesn't have 3 hours to be at a doctor's office.
Yeah,
So
that's so true. You know, it is personal experience. It just happened to me. You know, basically, me and my girlfriend, we went to this doctor, and it was like a family friend doctor. You know, for whatever you know, issues my girlfriend was having at the time, I was there to support her. We waited 1 hour for the doctor. Right? I don't care if you make somebody wait an hour for you. You know, she went, "I'm sorry, I was busy." That was her apology. Sorry, I was busy. Right? That's it. That was my girlfriend's first and last time she visited that doctor. Had no, and also, as the saying goes, you give one good experience, maybe you'll you know, the people will tell a couple. You give a bad experience, they're gonna tell everybody.
forget it.
So that
Exactly.
is gold.
And I mean, it's understandable that when you do go to a doctor's office, the possibility of having to wait is high because emergencies happen, and there's no place that that an emergency is going to happen than a doctor's office. I've had situations where I've gone in and I'm seeing patients, and in the middle of a patient, I get a phone call. I refuse to take calls while I'm with patients because that's rude. If I'm with you, I'm with you, and I'm giving you 100% of my time. I don't have my cell phone with me. My cell phone is in my office. I'm with you 100%. And my staff knows, do not interrupt me. But I've had situations where the staff has had to come in and interrupt me. And I'm like, this better be life or death. And 99.9% of the time, it was life or death. It was a cop calling me that one of my patients had died. They were in the emergency room and they needed to know whether I would be open to signing the death certificate. And that's something that had to be addressed right there and then. So that's going to set me back. Or I've had other patients come in with a full blown heart attack, and I'm asking them, why'd you come into my office? You're my doctor. I don't want to go to the ER. I'm going to have to wait hours in the ER. Yeah, but you're having a heart attack. So we end up having to dial 911, get EMS in there, load them up, and you have to give them medical records, this, that, and the other. And that's time that's going to set you back. So something that I learned early on was when something like that happened, I would go to the waiting room personally. I wouldn't send my staff. I'd go out there and say, look, you guys just saw the ambulance. I had a major emergency. The patient is fine. They left because that's the first. Is the patient okay, doc? Like they'll always ask me, like the patient's fine. They're on their way to the hospital, but that set me back. So understand that you're going to have to wait a little bit longer than you're accustomed to waiting. If any of you have any pressing appointments or whatever, we'll reschedule you right now. Otherwise, if you're willing to wait, I will do my best to, see you as quickly as I can. Rarely anyone reschedules. They're like, got it, doc, we appreciate it. But the fact that I'm out there explaining it to them means more, that they're like, oh, wait, the doctor took time out of his schedule to come and tell me this is what's up. Hey, I'll wait. And that's it.
That's exactly it, right? Like, and we didn't get that, right? All she had to do is she had to come in and say, hey, so sorry guys, whatever, for less than a minute, 30 seconds, we appreciate your time, but we didn't get that. And yeah, that just goes to show, I was interviewing a psychiatrist and what they teach you. So my bachelor's is in psychology, right? And before we got into doctor marketing, I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist, but I tell my family it's because of you guys. But basically, they train you there. They say, when does the session start? It's when they first see you, but even better, when they first enter your practice, that's when it starts right there. So it's got to be high quality.
It starts sooner. I'd go further. It starts when they make the phone call to your office. Because if your staff answers the phone with a smile and you tell them, we have a mirror. I learned that from one of the guys that I did some training. We had a mirror on their phone, by the phone, and it had on the top, it said smile. because if you're smiling, it works through. They feel it, they hear it, they hear it in your voice. And so, and it doesn't matter. You had a bad day. That's your bad day. Your bad day is not their problem. Now, do people call the office and are they assholes? Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, my staff today played a voice message for me that a physician referred a patient to our office. My employee, my new patient liaison, calls the phone number. He gets the patient's wife. It was listed that he could talk to the wife because, you know, because of HIPAA, there's certain things that you can and cannot say. But it was listed, any problems, any issues, you can talk to the wife. So my staff member is talking to her, goes through the whole spiel, the 15-minute free consultation. He goes over everything over the phone, what the process is, what the qualifying conditions are, what the initial investment is. We never say cost. We always talk about investment. You know, the initial investment is so much. Follow-up and visits are so much, and this is the whole process. And then she said, "Thank you for the information. I appreciate it. I'll share it with my husband, and if he's interested, we'll call back and make an appointment." Perfect, no problem. He calls back and identifies himself and says, "I'm so-and-so, you just spoke with my wife so-and-so, and I don't know what effing game you guys are playing there, but I'm not interested, and we're done, and I have one thing to say to you, you know, F off." And he hung up. And I looked at my staff member, who's like amazing, and I said, he didn't even have to call. You know, so the fact that he did that, he was having a shitty day, and he chose to take it out on our office. And that happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the industry, right? You know, you're dealing with customers. My first job was Safeway, right? Before, and luckily you, Dr. Rosado, you own your practice. Like I own my marketing agency, and people will respect us more. But imagine even the staff, right? Like they're just not treated well, and you just have to deal a lot with it. But you know, it goes back to this book I was reading, and it was this great piece of advice, which was the market does not pay you to be sad. The market doesn't value anger. The market values happiness and positivity. So like that smile tip, that is gold. And because when you smile, it just changes, you know, your posture affects you, how you breathe. These
Yeah.
are little things, little changes here, but if they compound into a wonderful practice. So that's great. Let's go back into speaking for a second, because you had this great process where you just called churches, et cetera. Did it progress there? You know, how did you get other speaking endeavors? Was it word of mouth?
Well, word of mouth, you know, but I joined Toastmasters. And in Toastmasters, the beauty of Toastmasters, because I knew how to speak. I didn't have a problem. You know, stick a microphone in my face, I'm off to the races, you know. But what I needed to learn was to be concise in my message. And that's the beauty of Toastmasters, because you have different exercises that you do. And you have, you know, you've got a 30-second, you know, spiel that you do. You could speak for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And then they have the lighting system that lets you know, while you're speaking in the proper time frame, you've got a green light. Then the yellow light comes on as you're approaching your final. And once you hit that time, you hit red. And we were graded. You know, our peers would grade us. And the minute you hit red, you were disqualified. So nobody wanted to be disqualified, because you're very, it's a competitive environment, and they're training you to be a competitive speaker as well. And so if you want to go that route, so I learned to have my messages and to speak. So when I would tell them I'm going to speak for 5 minutes, it was 4 minutes and 55 seconds, you know, because at the 5-minute mark, I was walking off the stage. And they appreciate that, because no one wants to share their pulpit, you know, with somebody. No one wants to share the stage with somebody. So that's what I did. So I went to Toastmasters, and then from there, I started going to like support groups, you know, like in cannabis, we have qualifying conditions. So I reached out to support groups for Parkinson's disease, or for epilepsy, or for cancer survivors, or cancer. And then I go in, I speak on how cannabis works for that condition. I am short, sweet, to the point. Does anyone have any questions? I spend more time doing Q&A than I do speaking, because that's their free, time to tap into my brain and ask me, what experience I have, or what I've seen, or what I've not done. And then at the end, I tell them, if any of you are interested in making an appointment, I'll be in the back of the room, and we'll set up your appointment today. And since I'm here, as a service, we'll give you 10% off or $25 off your initial visit. Boom.
I love that. That's an awesome model, right? So, and that's easy, right? Because like you guys listening out there, you're doctors. Everybody wants to talk to a doctor. Everybody needs a doctor, right? So when you're reaching out to a church, to a support group, whatever group it is, right? Most likely doctors that, there's such small percentage of the population, they don't have that expertise. They're going to want it, right? And so that's fantastic. What are your tips for somebody, maybe somebody's listening to this, they sign up for Toastmasters, right? And then now they talk to a support group. They're like, sure, come on down, talk about how, health is important, or a church, or, whatever meetup they're a part of. What is your tips for creating that first speech?
You want to promote what you're good at, what your niche is. Okay. For example, I just signed on a client. He's an OBGYN that specializes in endometriosis and pelvic pain. Okay. Well, that's a can of worms, because these are women that are in pain all the time. They can't have sex because it causes pain. So that that's affecting their marriage, that's affecting their relationship, that's making them depressed. So it's a spiral that is just, they're going down this rabbit hole, and there's truly no vision in sight. There's nothing, there's no light at the end of this tunnel. And so that's his niche, that's his market. And rather than giving them opiates to manage their pain, he wants to use medical cannabis to address their pain. And so that's because we have a specific niche market, we have a target audience. Now it's a matter of, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to start getting documentation, anything that supports the use of medical cannabis for pelvic pain, medical cannabis for depression, medical cannabis for, anxiety. And so he's got, all these little talking points, all these bullets that he now has his nurse practitioners and his staff members all on the same page with him. Every one of the exam rooms have like a flyer on the door or on the wall. So while they're sitting there waiting for him, they're sitting there and they're reading. And, when one of the staff members comes in and says, hey, can you tell me about that medical marijuana? Oh yeah, sure. Boom. She gives him like a quick, 2-minute quick talk, what it is, how it works. And then they say, if you have any questions, ask the doctor. But what they do is on his note in the computer, they put like, wants to talk about medical cannabis. So when he walks in and he's looking at his computer screen and he sees that gives him the segue to go in and say, hey, I understand you wanted to ask me about medical cannabis for your condition. What do you want to know? So he's giving her the opportunity to explore it and discuss it.
I love that.
The privacy,
That's yeah, because it's private, and at the same time, it's very high detailed. It's custom, right? And nothing beats a custom solution, obviously. So that's something that doctors out there should definitely be interested in doing in their process, right? And we're talking about the whole process now, from first when they even just meet you and talk to you, and then that's the first impression that all that matters, and then all the way down to when they come into the office.
Yeah, because everybody, when I was in medical school, I enjoyed things that many of my, my colleagues and my schoolmates hated. I loved the nervous system. So I was really good with neuroanatomy, I was with CNN, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, anything that dealt with the nervous system, neurology, I was on point. And it came easy to me and I enjoyed it. So if you have something, if you're, a general practitioner and there's something in medicine that gets you up every morning, focus on that, target those patients. Your days will go by faster. It'll be fun. It won't seem like work because you're doing what you love to do. Just because you're a doctor and they say, oh yeah, you're a jack of all trades, master of none, and you got to play the insurance game and you got to do this, you got to do that. Bullshit. If you enjoy one specific area of medicine and you're not a subspecialist, like you're not a pulmonary specialist, you're a general practitioner, but you enjoy working with patients with asthma, or you enjoy working with patients with bronchitis, or you enjoy patients with diabetes, target your market that way. Or you're a family practitioner and you enjoy kids and you didn't do pediatrics, but you enjoy working with adolescents, work on that. You're a psychiatrist and you enjoy working with a specific diagnosis, focus on that specific diagnosis.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, be the best at that one area because you're not going to be 100% across the board.
And this is how you start charging a premium, when you guys are listening. In fact, if, I write, obviously a book, SEO for Doctors, but shameless plug, but in the intro, it talks about how you got to pick your avatar, write out your exact client, because then you can start slowly upping your prices, slowly time again. And then now that's how you're getting to the top 1% where you got that focus. And then, speaking of upping prices, I talked to a doctor yesterday. She hasn't raised her price. She said she raised her prices once in 18 years by $10. I told her, and for whoever's listening out there, I wanted to get this out today as well. You got to up your prices because inflation is 3% year over year. I told her you're making less money today than when you first started. So why don't we actually cover there and then we get into the book. And I mean, I could have you on forever. So, but so upping prices, what are your tips there? What are your ideas, thoughts, etc.?
You just hit the nail on the head. The cost of living every year, the cost of living goes up. You have to give raises to your staff. Your electricity goes up. You've got overhead to meet, and your biggest overhead is your payroll. Everybody, that's their biggest overhead, their payroll. And every year, whether you're doing bonuses or whatever you're doing, one thing that I used to implement in my practice, I'm not doing it right now, but something I've done in the past was I had a salary for my staff. Everybody had a salary, but they were also on a bonus program every quarter. Rather than waiting to the end of the year, I would reward them on a quarterly basis. And it was based on collections. Why? Because my salary varies. I don't have a fixed salary. My salary is dependent on what we collect. And the higher your accounts receivable, the stupider you are because you got money out on the street for no reason. I'd rather have the money in my pocket than on the street. And so based on that, I had a scale where I would reward them and I would say, okay, if our collections are from X to X, you get this percent of that. Hang on,
There's another patient calling him, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, he's obviously very busy, and we are going over time here. So thank you so much, Dr. Joseph, for staying on with us during this time.
Sorry about that. That was my office manager. So
no worries.
No, because I'm seeing patients because of COVID-19. I'm doing telemedicine, and so my staff reaches out to me through the phone and whatnot, or the computer. So sorry.
That's perfectly fine. You were talking about collectibles and how basically,
right.
Yeah.
So I would break it down and I would give them a percentage of the collections. So what was the advantage of doing that? If a new patient called and our office hours were till 5, and they called at 4:45 and said, I need to come in and see the doctor. It's an emergency. They knew that was a new patient. New patients were going to bill higher for. We're going to collect. That's going to affect her bottom line. She's going to say, yeah, come on in right now. We'll wait. Versus you're an hourly patient. I mean, you're an hourly employee or you're a salary employee. And whether the patient shows up or doesn't show up, you get paid the same. That new patient is going to be put for tomorrow. Well, that new patient will make the appointment for tomorrow, but she's or he is going to be on the phone calling the next doctor on the list and is going to go in to see who will see them right then and there.
I love that model. That's a great potential model. I think
so by sharing on the collections and giving them bonuses, because yeah, people want to feel appreciated, but a little extra cash doesn't hurt anybody.
100%. And you're empowering your team, not just to do, doing a job. Nobody wants to just do a job, right? Like Dr. Joseph talked about how focusing on what you're passionate in, which is why it's so important to have that avatar, et cetera, when you first start. So Dr. Joseph, let's get into, I'll probably have you on for another segment. This is great. So let's talk about COVID. How has coronavirus impacted you in your practice? A lot of doctors, obviously it's impacted them in a negative way because they had to shut down their practices. And so how have you been able to overcome those hurdles?
Telemedicine, because from the federal government and Medicare, they've allowed for us to do telemedicine and provide telehealth. We have incorporated that in our practice. And as soon as the state of Florida indicated that we were allowed to do that, not for new patients, but for follow-up visits, that made our lives 100% easier because we incorporated that in our program. And the instant we did that, we sent out an email blast to all our patients and let them know we are going to be doing telemedicine for as long as we are legally allowed to do so for your safety and your security. They ate that up because we made sure to put in there, we're doing it to protect you. We're doing it for your safety. Because a large percentage of our patients are immunocompromised. They have multiple comorbidities. We want to make sure that they don't contract this crazy virus. So by saying that, we had 0 no-shows.
I love that. That's awesome. And also there's a side note there that I want to point at. He said we're doing it for you. And in, obviously with the marketing agency, that's in marketing. Whenever I get cold calls, spam emails, that's so annoying. Everybody just talks about themselves. The first thing, hi, Dr. Joseph, let me talk about me. I don't care about you. I have my own problems, so you have to talk about the patients, what they're going through in all your marketing and their perspective. And that's how you're going to get the most value. So that's fantastic. 0 no-shows. That's really awesome. And then how are you getting new patients right now? Are you still speaking or what are you doing there?
I'm speaking virtually like I'm doing now. Many of my talks last year, I was traveling all over the world. Thus far, I've done everything online. And so on a weekly basis, I'm doing, 2 to 3 different interviews. And so what do? I ask the person that's going to interview me, after we're finished, send me the link to the meeting. I send it to my marketing people and they, patch it up, put, my banner, use my colors, use my brand, and then they are responsible for marketing and promoting that everywhere. So it lets everybody know, hey, Dr. Rosado's still active. Dr. Rosado's still out there, pounding the pavement. He's still, doing it. And so, and patients will, comment, oh, the best doctor ever. Oh, I've heard you talk before, but I didn't know this. Well, it's pretty much my same message, but they were in a place that they heard it and it resonated. And then, oh, I never heard you say that before. Okay, cool. You got something new out of it. Outstanding. And you always make it a positive.
I love that, and that's something great when you speak, whether it's you're reaching out and let me know if there's like a specific script you use or anything like that. But basically, if you're speaking on different platforms, et cetera, you're positioning yourself as a leader in the field, and it makes your existing clients a lot more passionate about working with you. And then you get more referrals that way. You can use hashtags on social medias, of course, and everything goes fantastic from there. So tell us more about the book. And this is the last topic, because like I said, I feel like I'm just draining you for your time over here. So what are your tips for doctors who want to write a book? What do you wish you would have known and, done in the future to sell more
Well,
copies,
again,
etc.?
what helped me was that I got into an arena where there wasn't a lot of information available for a provider, for a physician. And so for someone that wanted to learn more and get into it, whether you're a patient or a physician, there wasn't that much information available. And so out of necessity was where I created the book. And so what I did was I put in experiences, things that I had learned, bits and pieces that I had learned, here, there, everywhere, and I just compiled it and put it into one specific thing. And then from there, I did it as cutting edge as I could, because I'm in the state of Florida. I had to write it based on the rules and regulations for the state of Florida. And as the laws changed in the state of Florida, I made certain that I placed those rules and regulations in the book to make sure that everything was on point. So for that reason, I worked my tail off to make sure that everything was correct and it's referenced and everything else. So what I tell other doctors, I didn't know to do this, but I had a coach tell me the best way to create leverage and take you to the next level is writing a book. That's like a mic drop. In your 30-second spiel, hi, I'm Dr. Joseph Rosado. I'm a primary care physician. I do medical cannabis, and I published the book last year, and I published articles in referee journals. I'm done. Boom, drop the mic. I'm an expert. I wrote a book. I published articles in referee journals. I'm an expert. I've done research.
I
That's
love
it.
that. That's great, because also, I was talking to my team about this, and I think doctors should definitely take this away, is you want to have people to look at you like you're overqualified. Like, wow, I'm talking to X person, like they're on the highest possible level. That's how you can charge more prices. That's how you can convert them to patients much easier. And even on our website, like our testimonials page where we're doing it right now, all our 5 stars, everything is going to be in one spot to just show people, hey, we're overqualified over here. We can get the job done. So I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah, the model is no longer fee for service. That model is old and done with. Now you're getting paid for the value that you bring. And if you're bringing value to somebody, like the 2 new patients I started today, the value I brought to one patient was that she didn't have to wait 3 hours in my office. And she was able to get in, see me, get the examination, get her recommendation, get her prescription, and be out the door to be able to go take care of her 2 daughters and or go to work or whatever she had to do. So that was the value. So she was willing to pay what she paid today because she knew that she was going to get in and get out and be not there for 3 hours. The value I gave another new patient that drove an hour and 15 minutes to get to my office was because he knew that the value he was going to get was he was going to get total anonymity, because he's somebody that is known in the community, had a specific challenge, and he was willing to travel that far because he knew that no one is going to know that he was seen in my office today or ever.
That's fantastic. And that is a great point as well there. So why don't you tell us if a doctor listening to this, and we've gone through so much, so I don't even know if you can do this, because normally I like to end with what's one action step or one takeaway you'd like other doctors listening to the podcast to implement?
Discover yourself. Discover what gets you up in the morning. Discover what is your why. Why did you get into medicine? Why do you enjoy managing these types of patients? Once you know your why, the how comes like that. But you have to know yourself, and you have to make yourself happy. It's not about like I went to school with a lot of kids that, oh, my parents want me to be a doctor. Or, I mean, medicine was my sixth career. You heard everything I had done prior to that. So when I chose to go to medical school is because I had experienced a situation where I said, I will never be in a position where I cannot help my patients 100%. I will never be limited in my ability to help a patient. And for that reason, I chose to go back to medical school, married with a set of a 1.5-year-old twins.
Wow. That's, yeah. I mean, I love that. And I love how, I think I personally tell, and the audience will as well, that you are very driven in what you do and you have a strong why and you're passionate. So with that being said, where can we find you?
My website is josephrosadomd.com. And on my website, you'll find all my connections, except for LinkedIn right now, because somebody hacked my LinkedIn account late last night, early this morning. This morning I got 4 messages through text or Facebook Messenger. Did you get hacked? I think you got hacked. Verify your LinkedIn account. My clients, my patients are reaching out to me saying, hey, doc, I think you got hacked. Check yourself out. Check it out. Within minutes, I reached out to my marketing people. My marketing people got on there and they're like, yep, we were hacked. We got to shut it down. Okay, shut it down. You got to be that quick, but people were watching out for me. And it's not people that I talk to on a daily basis, but these are people that in some way, shape, or form have seen me be of value to them. They're like, oh, wait, I don't want to screw, I don't want my doc to get screwed. I don't want my friend to get screwed. And these are people that I haven't spoken, like one of the guys that sent me a message, I haven't spoken with him for over a year. But we follow each other on Facebook. We follow each other on LinkedIn. We will message each other, just briefly. But the minute he saw this thing, he immediately sent me a text message and say, hey, doc, check your account. I think you got hacked. Okay, thanks. Like 4 messages within a 30-minute span of time.
That's awesome. So where would you like them to go?
Go to my website, josephrosadomd.com. And then on there, you'll have all the links to all of my social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. And that's another episode of Vital Doc Talk.